Hi there, Randy Green here. Final video, technically it's video 9. In this one, I want to look into inner outer energy work on the subsidiary timeline. In the previous podcast, we did some exercises in meditation / contemplation / self-scanning / healing work. But here when we talk energy work, it is I'm more thinking about the cleansing processes, and I'll put a little exercise below the podcast so you have a foundational one. But of course, we need to, I want to go to a specific place. Let me begin with step 1. The energy work we have been doing so far on the main timeline, as in the subsidiary, not the subsidiary, sorry about that, the main timeline and the artificial timeline as part of the artificial 4th and 5th dimension, do not apply on the subsidiary timeline. Technically, if there were no influence or no interference or anything going on around us, we shouldn't really need to do any energy work, as in cleansing work, getting rid of energetic parasites, and all of these issues that we are having as part of the main timeline. I asked the cube, I did the exercise in the previous podcast, and I asked the cube, what is the most important energy work? And the answer was to keep up the energetic integrity. And that's an interesting answer because I know in my heart what it means, but it's still kind of it needs to be looked into. And I know I'm waving a lot and I'm doing and I'm trying to find the words here, but that's because it's something new. I don't know what it is, but I want to express it. So energetic integrity, what is that? First and foremost, it goes with principle 9. And it goes with power and the correct use of power. Correct use of power. Power is connected to our consciousness potentials. And it goes with boundaries. And it goes with our original abilities. And it goes with our core representation of what we choose to work with when we are navigating and traveling between the different dimensions and other realities. So this goes back to who and what are we normally, and have we been? What is the kind of the core signature of our multidimensional selves, to put it that way? And I know it sounds like we are plural and we are very confusing and all these kind of things, but that's not the case. It's just a way to put it. So we don't fall into the trap of, okay, what are you doing when you were a Pleiadian? I'm just trying to avoid these stereotype classifications that are inaccurate. So the more accurate answer or question would be, what do you normally do when you traverse 4th dimensional reality fields? Or what do you normally do when you traverse 5th dimensional reality fields and 6th dimensional reality fields? Or you could ask, what was your main proposition and what was the main function you had inside the pillar project? Which of the pillars were you working within, and what was it that was your key function within the pillars? On which dimensional level of, for instance, the 3-9 pillar, to take that, did you work in the 3rd dimension, in the outer domain, or did you work in the 4th, 5th, and 6th in the middle domain, and onward and so forth? So ask these very important questions. If you ask me, Randy, what do you normally do in the 4th dimension? Then the first thing that pops up is, I'm creating holographic architecture. What do you normally do in the 5th dimension, overall in different reality fields across different levels of the pillar project? I normally create cube technology and the programs that engineers the code streams of the reality field. Okay, what do you normally do in the 6th dimension? I'm building bridges to other domains where that becomes possible. That does not mean much, but it still gives indication of, okay, these are some things that have a core understanding of building, engineering, and working with holographic architecture, as well as programs, code streams, and reality field. All the things I've been teaching from the angle I've been teaching it in the whole academy courses and in this material. So it gives a kind of indication of, okay, what is it that my core abilities actually are? For those of you who have not connected to your past and you have no understanding of who and what you used to be, then of course it can be difficult to navigate what is actually your true abilities, from where you can keep your energetic integrity. As we talk through the text material when we are on the subsidiary timeline, it is super important to have this foundational understanding of who and what we are, because otherwise we create distortion. The subsidiary timeline will only work if we truly know our core self and what it is that are our core abilities that we exemplify in different reality fields and different dimensions, in different versions. So for me, it's this, when it comes down to, yes, I have a past as a warrior, but that's technically going far, far back to the previous cycles. Within the new evolutionary cycles, my main feature is science. It is to work with science so science can be implementable and turn into some sort of change within reality field I'm working on, and then eventually turn into some kind of new, more progressive type of life forms. Again, that's very, very broad, but this is still giving an indication of my core abilities. I'm not a teacher. I know that I can teach, but I prefer not to. I'm not working with people in the manner that I've been doing inside this reality in many lifetimes and in different ways and forms. In the Pillar Project, others are working with people and other groups of from within different civilizations. I do have a slight memory of being part of a community where I'm teaching holographic sciences within that community as they are working, but I'm teaching the sciences. I'm not working with people as I've been doing here as a psychotherapist. So in that way, and healing people, all the things where you could say I've been more hands-on with the human itself as an object that needs to be healed and recalibrated and upgraded and developed and progressed and all these things. I normally am behind the scenes creating the sciences, create the architecture, and create the programs. And then I can go out and teach and mentor these programs, but most of the time that's something else. Someone else is doing that. Is more in contact with whomever is to be taught these things. And because I've been pushed into working directly with people, it has created an unfortunate backlash or feedback loop that has created more distortion for me than necessary, aside from all the other stuff that's going on in this reality field. So there will be a greater balance and integrity when I am doing what I'm actually, quote unquote, born to do. And born is not something that we are, but this is the way we're saying it inside this world. What's my true capacity. When I do that, there will be an energetic integrity. So how do I put up the boundaries and make sure that I'm not crossing the line, quote unquote, and keep myself in a constant process of energetic integrity? If I have that keyword in energy work on the subsidiary timeline, and here it's important to understand. Let me put this: we're in step 1 on the subsidiary timeline. When we go to step 2, 3, 4, and 5, whatever that means, things will change. So this is just the beginning process. I'm on the timeline. I'm just stepped into it. And I'm here learning how to operate, so how it works, and this is what the second set has been all about. And here we're also looking at the beginning of the energy work. The first clue I get is energetic integrity, as in, you need to keep the balance, you need to keep the harmony, and you need to be in that dynamic where you, by your action and by the daily alignment with the core energies of the sun, and doing that exercise I showed you in the previous podcast, there I get the harmony and balance that I need in my body. Then the integrity comes in, as in keeping up the boundaries. It's like the consciousness boundaries of knowing exactly who and what I am is a kind of a sovereignty protection. When we know exactly who and what we are, it kind of repels everything that we are not. And I know this sounds very weird, and how does that actually work? I can say that when When I lose connection to my core self, then I go into my human self. And that's the 3 lower fields. They're per definition engineered, especially for women, engineered to not have boundaries, to be flexible, to be adaptable, to be compliant, to go on compromise. All of these things that women are doing on a daily basis. So we have not the same strong integrity, energetically speaking, because there literally is no program for female integrity. Men have this kind of honor, this kind of respect, and all these kind of things that goes with nobilities and soldiers and all of these programs that they have, where you can say, well, females as a mother, you can definitely have a kind of integrity, but it goes more into when we are in some kind of function inside the world where you can say the greatest integrity you can have as a female, and males for that matter, is to be authentic and to not lie. Do not cheat, do not lie, do not do anything that creates distortion. Integrity is to be honest, straightforward. What you say, what you do is in alignment with everything you are. You are not deviating. You can definitely be not persuade, that's the wrong word, but if you have an idea of something and someone tells you it in elaborate, very explanatory in ways where you can see this actually makes sense, then of course we can shift into that understanding of the world or whatever's going on. Otherwise, it goes with this, what I say is what I do, and who I am is what I exemplify. So there is no gap between inner and outer in that manner. Integrity means that what we are on the inside, we exemplify on the outside to the best of our abilities without causing harm or hurting anyone. We are authentic to the best of our abilities in an assertive manner, so we are not causing harm or distress by being who and what we are. That means communication skills, that means emotional intelligence, that means mindfulness, and that means the ability to observe and understand reality as it truly is. That's integrity. So when we come to the energetic integrity on the subsidiary timeline, we here do the exact same thing, but with our higher order awareness. We do that with the core awareness and how it can be exemplified inside this reality. I keep telling it that there's not much place or space. I can't work holographically here. Yes, I could do it via technology, but in the two worlds, I do it via consciousness expansion. And yes, I do use technology, but we don't have that technology. So it's difficult to be what we could say authentic in this world, but I can definitely exemplify to the best of my abilities in my everyday energy work and in the whatever I co-create. I can attempt to mirror what I am on the inside. That goes with the energetic integrity, however that plays out, however that is possible. And that's why it's good to remember the exercises of different dimensional features and what's possible in different dimensions. As I said, the subsidiary timeline, we're now in step 1. What happens when we go to step 2 and 3 and 4? And I don't know, I'm not there yet. So I can only fantasize, and I don't want to do that. But I know what I'm doing right now in step 1. And one of the things I definitely can see is that if I look into what kind of dimension are connected to step 1, that's the 4th, 5th, and 6th of the original reality field configuration. Hence, we're getting the 4th and 6th from the solar core, and we are getting kind of from the new Andromeda. That's the type of 5th dimension we get from there. That's the cube, that's typically 5th dimension. And then we're integrating into this body that is the foundation of who and what we are inside this reality. In that way, we work with the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension. Of course, the 4th and the 6th are energetic, whereas the 5th is still within what we say a type of download that puts things into motion. But that's the key function of the 5th dimension, is that it holds this architecture as well as code streams and complex information systems that teaches us how to do things, whereas the 6th dimension, as things are now, delivers the code sequences that goes with the 6th dimensional energy that creates unity. And the fourth dimension creates vibration that goes into a balanced, harmonious type of developmental process. So we are having this connection between again, fifth dimension radiation energies and its code sequences, but that's what a complex information system technically is. Again, but it's since the brain is have been used to utilize these higher dimensional code streams, at least for me as a download, it's not difficult for me to translate it into a kind of communication. You can communicate with the cubes. They can give you words if you have learned to deal with them. Of course, in the beginning of some of the cube technology, it's difficult to see, is it actually what we could call Atlantean, or is it actually New Andromedan? And to some degree, they can create energetic parasites. And then instead of actually talking to the cube in the original New Andromedan architectural functionality, you are suddenly communicating with your version of an energetic parasite. So that's also important to let that one go and evaporate that whatever pops up in your mind. And right now, some of the code configurations from the sun is generating what we call kind of white type of energies that connects with my brain and what the brain does into a kind of a white snake. I just discovered it when I was looking into my brain. Okay, let's pull that one out and get rid of that one. So there can still be these distortion entities that are now coming with the continuation of the work that we are doing in the first layers of the subsidiary timeline. It's like we are in between the old and the new, plus what's going on during nighttime and all of these things, because our body and our fields are so used to creating energetic parasites and dysfunctional patterns. My best guess is that until that has been understood and aligned and worked with and always producing the harmonious patterns, it will keep producing an imbalanced version because it is kind of getting a new energy in that is disconnected to the rest of the energies that we currently have in our fields. And that will create a new type of energetic parasites because that is a transfer and in in-between states that also can create energetic parasites. Are they the same as the fourth dimensional lower level type of parasites? Well, the form and the shape is the same, but the genetics or the way the energies they are produced of are dissimilar. So that's an interesting thing. It could be there are, because I was linking up to the sun today and it came through the medium of clouds and there was a little bit of chemtrail haze and whatever. So that could also produce these new type of energetic parasites. Plus, it's not the actual physical sun. When we're working with the fourth and the sixth dimensional energies, they are technically not the physical sun, but the version that's behind that's kind of inserted into the physical sun. In a way, it's difficult to explain, but it's not actually the physical sun that we are working with when we are working with the energy exercise I gave you in the previous podcast. So what my energy system is doing right now, which is interesting when I'm looking at it because the energies are dropping. Right now, there's all of these little filaments that are being produced and my body doesn't really know what to do with it. My lower fields doesn't know what to do with it. So the energy work is here in the beginning of the process when we link up to the solar core energies and the Andromedan technology. Our body will naturally begin to create different types of distortions because it's cleansing out. So this is where something will be pushed to the surface. This is an interesting observation as well. So what are these white snakes that are popping up? For me, because I've also been working a little bit with some white Syrian elder lineages lately, for me, it feels like these are the ones that just overproduce now because they're being fueled with a type of six-dimensional energy they used to feed off naturally. So I'm just going in and saying, okay, I need to eradicate that field. That's not working well. That doesn't comply with this one. And I go in and I give it that kind of, I'm literally telling the cube, okay, this needs to be eradicated. This is not working well. We need to change the configuration or get rid of the Syrian genetics because they don't comply well with the new Andromedan energies. So with that, it's also going in and say, okay, that doesn't work. And then they just evaporate and they cease to exist. So what does these energetic parasites do? They have a tendency to multiply different forms of genetics. But if these genetics are not pure, then that energy that comes from the solar core will make them multiply. And that's important to understand. So if we have some kind of distorted energies and we use that exercise I showed you in the previous podcast, well, some of the things, the imbalances will then multiply, especially if there's not natural to your system. So that's a good observance for me to have and to get to, as in that understanding, okay, that goes with energetic integrity, that there is a transition period. And in that period, what we have will multiply so we can see it clearly and then we can get rid of it. And that's an interesting feature I have not observed before. But that's because the energies of the sun are technically put there to support life, support a regenerative life, to make sure that trees and flowers and whatever will blossom and come into fruition. So there is a specific feature of the solar core energies that pushes that to go into fruition, go to be prosperous, so to speak, multiply and be prosperous. So that means a tweaking of these energies. It's a good thing when it's a positive type of vibrational energy and the code configuration is correct in the cellular core as well as in the molecules, because then they become self-regenerative. But if they're imbued with things that shouldn't be there, then that will multiply to begin with and will be a little bit overwhelmed by some of the things that suddenly pops up. So this is a way to push things to the surface. Remember, activate so it can be cleared out. So that's a new feature by that energy exercise that I gave prior to this podcast. All of these things are very interesting in terms of learning to observe what's going on when we do a new type of exercise, and then also apply it to energy work. You see, in the previous podcast, even though it was healing, we were working with energies and we were working with integration of energies, then that's an activation process. Then that leads to energy work where we are clearing out our fields, we are scanning ourselves, and we see what's the effect of that energetic exercise. Similarly, when you have gone through the videos explaining the text material, what was the effect in your energy field? What does that activate and what does then rise up and come into free, what you call a visible range of what needs to be cleared. What has been dormant and what is then brought back to life so that you can clear it out. With that, we could say the final goal for me when we're talking about both energetic integrity. So energetic integrity here is to fully understand that when we activate, when we work with it, there's energetic counterpart to that creates a type of distortion, and we must go back to the integrity where we are, what we are on the inside, we are as well on the outside, so to speak, that everything is in balance. And remember, I talked about in the explaining that the subsidiary timeline works vertically, horizontally. So in that way, we could say the energy exercise in the previous podcast was vertically. Now I'm working horizontally, where I'm seeing what's the effect of it and what's the energy work and how do I balance this? How do I put my energy system back into balance? Do I have to eradicate it all and begin all over? How do I work with this? What are the effects of that energy exercise? What are the effects of the material I have studied, and onward and so forth? There must always be this second leg where we are observing the effect of what we have put in motion. So that's part of the energy work on the subsidiary timeline. So that must also include that if we're working with an idea and we want to manifest the idea and we're making some material that kind of lifts us up vertically, pushing us higher up in energy and gives us some higher order understanding of reality, then there is the integration process horizontally where we do energy work first, and then we see what are the effects of this, and then we figure out how to balance that and integrate it and saying, okay, now I've done the clearing work of all of these elder lineage, elder strand, white elder strand, Syrian genetics, whatever. I need to do more after this podcast, of course. But what surfaces then? What comes after that? What shows itself in my mind to be worked with? What new features are presenting themselves after the integration process of the energetic outcome of that exercise? Once I've done the clearing work, got rid of these things, how does my feels then look? What's going on there? Right now, I'm just seeing they just seem transparent. There's nothing really there. Whereas in the previous podcast, we had all of these symbols and colors and whatnot. Now they're just completely blank. And in that way, I can say, okay, that's good. And then I just dissolve them and see them fall apart and not exist. And then I know, okay, I'll do it one more time, because right now what I build creates energetic parasites. So it's not in energetic integrity. It's dysfunctional. So it must be let go of. And that's also to be authentic, as in not to cling on to something. Oh, I created this. No, it's not working. Dissolve it, let it go, and follow the higher standards. As we always know, when we are doing energy work, we must have the highest purity rate, the highest standards, and the highest progression rate. And energetic parasites do not add up to that pattern. So that's also energetic integrity. To be honest with what we have created. If it doesn't work, don't stick to it. Let it go and recreate and do over and get better at it. At some point, all of what's hidden of distortions that must be cleared out will be cleared out. I think there is a bigger chance on the subsidiary timeline to be able to get to the bottom of what we need to clear out. But of course, I know most likely, at least in the first stages of the subsidiary timeline, whatever we are will love to realign with the main timeline. Whatever we engage in, whatever's going on, this is most likely what will happen for the first many steps on the first section of the subsidiary timeline. So we can say, if, for instance, if I have to travel to the mainland, and I do so, and I step into the energies of the main timeline, then that's kind of seen as a vertical, either up or down, most likely down. But then there still needs to be an integration, an energy work, an integration process where I clear out what's there and scan my system and get rid of what's not supposed to be there, and then integrate what is supposed to be there, or let go of what is not to be there. So these are, again, whatever something comes into our everyday that's dissimilar to what we normally do, see it as a vertical. This is something that puts something in motion. And then the horizontal is, this is where we clear and we integrate, and then we put it back into balance. So whatever that was, we have now put ourselves into balance. Okay, there are probably much more to say. This is just the baby steps into the subsidiary timeline. But I also think it's important at this stage that at this point, self-exploration and the ability to look within, to understand what's going on and what's the right approach should by now, for those of you who have worked your way through all of the material of the whole academy, it should be on the backbone right now. The sight should have come by now. Clairvoyant abilities should have risen up by now. The ability to understand the other dimension should to some degree be part of who and what you are. And again, on the subsidiary timeline, that's for the ones that have full capacity switched on, full sight, full awareness, all of these things to the degree that's possible inside this reality. If you're not clairvoyant, if you're not able to self-scan, if you can't heal yourself, if you don't know how to repair your code sequences, if you don't know how to work with the energy system, if you don't know how to work with the radiation energies, if your brain can't download higher order information, you're not on the subsidiary timeline. Not even in your wildest dreams can you imagine being on it. This is a selection mechanism that goes with the laws of energetic and genetic affinity. If there's no energetic or genetic affinity with the subsidiary timeline, you will not be on it. You'll be on the main timeline, or on some type of timeline that is still sticking out of the main timeline, but part of the main timeline and the big broad lake, or what do you call it? the big river, that's the English word, the big river that is pushing the humanity into a specific direction. I am pretty aware that there still are fourth dimensional different types of groups that are creating smaller timelines where people are being pushed into for minor projects or whatever they're going on. But overall, humanity is going in one specific direction. And I'm taking the subsidiary one and going absolutely as far away from the main timeline as possible. Will I succeed? Well, we'll see. I'm doing what is being shown to me, and I'm working to the degree that is possible, and I'm doing my very best every day. And that's all we can ask for. So here at the end of 2024, today is the 22nd of December, and technically it's the first day since we had solstice yesterday on the 21st. And that's always the last day of the year. So we have begun the new day, the new cycle of a full year, and that begins today. And with that, I have put in a new type of meditation, contemplation, healing exercise, as well as new type of energy work on the subsidiary timeline, understanding that this work, however possible or not possible, definitely holds a different way of doing meditation, as well as a different way of doing energy work. I'm not going to make any prophecies of where and what not, but I can say at the end of this year, we have completed Principle 8, Correct Use of Energy, and I have ended up making the second set on the 21st of December. And in that way, I would say, I feel to a large degree that I have lived up to the cycles and the activation and integration processes of 2024, what was needed and what was the high point of that one that ended up in the podcast I did yesterday. On the first day of 2025, where we are going into the understanding of correct use of power, I think that energetic integrity and the understanding of boundaries that rises from consciousness potentials and true abilities that creates what we call consciousness sovereignty. It's not energetic, it's consciousness that becomes sovereign when we recall fully and truly what our true capacities are. That creates a kind of a core alignment that I will call sovereignty, that sets up boundaries. These boundaries are not energetic. All energetic boundaries can always be broken by some type of energy that's either higher or lower. But consciousness boundaries goes under the laws of energetic and genetic affinity, because the moment we have genetic affinity, we are drawn to the energetic realms that matches our core consciousness. That's a true boundary, as in that's the true sphere that we can create around our own being, our core essence of our two consciousness units, where we can segregate from other realities that do not have the similar type of consciousness potentials. However, again, we are in human form, so some of the laws might not work to the degree we would like them to. And that means that we, in our daily work, must rebuild the sense of self within our core boundaries, the sovereignty, consciousness, alignment that leads us to the connection to the subsidiary timeline. Even though we go to stage 4, 5, or 6, I'm just saying, we still have to do the same type of work. As long as we're in a world that is super dissimilar to what we want to achieve, energy work, contemplation, meditation must be part of the daily practice. Double awareness must be part of the daily practice. Learning to observe the world from the understanding of the subsidiary timeline must be part of daily practice. Being around other people, as well as what we do in the world, must be from the viewpoint of the subsidiary timeline and its complex information systems. This is a completely different way of looking at the world. If you recall when you were working your way through the timeline clearing processes, at that point you were viewing the world due to the projection mechanism of your holographic energy system. You were looking at the outer world through the lenses of wherever you were in your clearing work, what stage you were in your clearing work with your holographic energetic architecture. And that goes with the subsidiary timeline. That comes in and creates a new energetic vibration. It comes in and creates a new type of radiation field. It comes in and gives you downloads of information from the advanced civilizations that we hopefully can become part of at some point. And it activates your original core abilities, and by that technically create what we could call actual sovereignty inside this reality. And with that, I am very pleased that you have listened so far and you have worked with me so far here throughout the second set. After this one, once I've done with the facilitator test group in April, May, and June, then that material will be offered as an online course. And then if all goes as it's supposed to, then there will most likely be a module 2 in energy construction work, and that will be associated with some of the higher order sciences on the subsidiary timeline, including a potential community setup that might or might not be, all depending on what Inner Earth does. Right now, here at the end of 2024, everything is very, very uncertain. There's a lot of possibilities, but it all comes down to which one are manifestable. As I said at the end of podcast 6, in the end, what we're doing here will still lead us to the steps that allows our consciousness potentials to be pulled out, so we leave nothing behind. And for me, at the end of the day, that's always the main reason why I'm doing this, so that whatever happens when this life is over, I will not participate further in this solar system in any capacity, on any level, or in any dimension. That has always been my goal, and has been my goal for a very, very long time. And that's also why I entered into this system. So in that, there's also integrity there. I'm not working against what I came here to do. Actually, I'm working in alignment with it. It is more than when I get pushed in to do something I don't really want to do on the behalf of others. So I guess that part of my future integrity also goes in saying no, and not just no to prospects and projects and what could come from outer sources, but also what could come from inner sources. I will be honest and say, though, that as long as the different groups that have been and are there and might come are using advanced technology that I don't know yet how operate, it is, I can say no as much as I like, from the morning, from the sun goes up to the sun goes down. If they decide that they want to do something, then they know how to do it. And until I've learned how to get rid of that, then they are technically the ones that are quote unquote superseding, or are putting me under supervision, or could call themselves mentors of something that I had to learn. Similarly with the Q technology of the new Andromeda. In a way, it's still also something that works on a higher level than I currently am used to. And I am pinging with it and sparring with it as something that, as an external source, that gives me information of how to continue, including when I'm receiving information from the subsidiary timeline itself, the holographic teaching system. That's also a type of external source that tells me what to do. Just bear in mind that whatever we do, we are always investigating the energetic effects of it, doing energy work and clearing work. And then if it carries water, we integrate it and we make it part of us. If it doesn't carry water and it creates a lot of energetic parasites, clear as day, then there's something that either was activated, sparked to life, needs to be cleared out, or it was not for us, and then we evaporate it and annihilate it and let it go. And we're no longer holding on to that type of what we have achieved, and let it go, because it's not part of our consciousness structure. So energetic integrity, consciousness sovereignty, as well as clear boundaries that goes with who we are and what we are not. And everything that we are not, we are putting our hands up and saying, stop, I'm not participating in that, and putting up our boundaries. All of it, everything that we're doing is always a process. With that said, the first day of the new year, the correct use of power, energetic integrity, understanding consciousness potentials, what they can and cannot do, how they create distortion, how they do not, as well as sovereignty, and standing strong in our core abilities is part of what means to the true use of power. And the correct use of power also goes with then how do we use this sovereignty? Where do we create boundaries? And how do we operate in a world where we are now in alignment with our core abilities and levels that do not integrate well into this world? And how do we use that power to continue our journey into an advanced civilization, whatever that means for each and one of us? And with that, thank you for being here, and thank you for doing what you do. And until next time, to you join another course, take care and be well, and do the very best you can. Thank you.